Today we're talking about ratios, rates, and unit rates. Here's a definition that you might want to jot down. A ratio uses division to compare two numbers. So, for example, some ways that we write ratios are like this: a fractional form with a colon or with 2. So a lot of times we see fractions. This is also a symbol of a ratio. And then sometimes with odds we see 2, but this is also a symbol for a ratio. Now, it's going to compare two numbers that have the same units. So 17 wins to 24 wins. If we wanted to write that with the colon, it would look like this, or with the 2 sign, it would look like that. If we wanted to then take pop versus rock, and we're talking about music here, same thing, 17 to 24, 17 to 24. So notice that these right here are talking about the same thing. Right here we're both talking about wins, and here we're talking about types of music. Okay, so make sure you have that ratio definition. Now let's talk about rates. A rate is a ratio, but of two quantities with different units. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about 60 miles in 4 hours. I can't convert hours to miles, okay? I'm also talking about things like t-shirts with money. Okay, I can't turn t-shirts into $15, okay? But 3 t-shirts for $15 makes sense. Okay, so make sure that you have the definition of rate and maybe even a couple of these examples. Different units. Notice miles and hours down here, okay? We've got 80 miles in 4 hours, which can be simplified to 20 miles in 1 hour. Well, how did we do that? Well, we divided by 1, and a division of 1 can look different. If we divide by 4 on both sides, it's like 4 over 4, which equals 1, right? So really we're dividing by 1 when we're dividing by the same number in the numerator as in the denominator. So our numerator, 80 miles divided by 4 is 20 miles. 4 hours divided by 4 is, 4 hours divided by 4, yes, is 1 hour. Well, this is what we call a unit rate. All right, and we're going to look at the definition in a second, but one way that we talk unit rates is 20 miles per hour. So let's look at the definition of a unit rate. A unit rate is a rate that compares a quantity to one unit of the second quantity. So it's a rate, which means that there's going to be two different units, money and pens in this case. Okay, it compares one unit. This right now is just a rate. We want to change it into a unit rate. So what we're going to do is, I don't care how much it is for 2 pens, I only want 1 pen. So I can divide both by 1, which means I can divide both by 2, right? Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. So really, I'm not doing anything wrong there. I'm making equivalent ratios or equivalent rates in this case. So $2.50 for 1 pen, and how we would say that in the real world is $2.50 per pen. Okay, here's some other examples if you want to write them down. 60 miles per hour, 50 cents per pound. Okay, so we've got equivalent ratios and rates here. There are 14 red marbles and 20 blue in a bag of marbles. So what is the ratio of red to blue? Now, we've got 14 and we've got 20. But the key word here is they want us to do this in simplest form, okay? We don't want to just keep it this ratio, because we know we could add a colon in here. We could put a 2. We could write it as a fraction, but we don't want to keep them like that. Most of the time we see them written as fractions, so that's what we're going to start with. So 14 over 20. We know these are red and these are blue. If I wanted to simplify, I need to think to myself, what number goes into both? Well, they're both even, so I know I could divide by 2. And 14 divided by 2 is 7, 20 divided by 2 is 10. So I have 7 red marbles to 10 blue marbles. Notice that because red came first, I put it in the numerator, and that blue came second, so I put it in the denominator. If I wanted to rewrite it another way, it'd be 7 to 10, or 7 to 10 written out. Okay? What is the ratio of blue marbles to the total marbles? So we want blue marbles to the total. So we've got 20 blue, and the total number of marbles would be 14 and 20 make 34. I could put the colon in between. I could put a 2 in between. I could write them as a fraction. But instead, I want to know what they are simplified. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do 20 over 34. Okay, they're both even. 10 out of, okay, let's think about this. 34. Well, 2 goes into 30 15 times, goes into 4 twice, so 17. Can it go any further than that? 17 is a prime number, so no. So 10 blue marbles to 17 total marbles. So 10 to 17, or even 10 to 17. Okay, let's look at another example. Remember, you can pause, you can rewind this video, so if you want to take a few more minutes to jot down some notes, feel free to pause, or if you need that explanation again, go ahead and rewind me. All right, let's look at rates. Sierra can make 8 friendship bracelets in 2 hours. Which of the following rates is equivalent to 8 bracelets in 2 hours? This is supposed to say is. See, we make mistakes in life, right? It's okay. All right, so 8 bracelets in 2 hours, which would be equivalent? I want you to take a second here, and I want you to look at each example, A, B, C, and D, and see if you see anything that's similar. Okay, if I simplified this, it would be 4 bracelets in 1 hour. So can she make 6 bracelets in 3 hours? Is that equivalent? Well, if I multiply and I get to 3, this would be 12 over 3, so no. 3 bracelets in 1 hour? We said 4, so no. 16 bracelets in 4 hours. Well, if I add on another bracelet here and another hour here, yep, that one works. Let's just check to make sure that they didn't give us 2. 10 bracelets in 5 hours? No. Okay, so let's look at rates. Mark can type 44 words in 2 minutes. Which of the following is equivalent to that rate? Well, if someone can type 44 words in 2 minutes, and let's use words and minutes, how many can they type in 1 minute? So 22 in 1 minute. Okay, so let's look at our options. 62 words in 3 minutes. Well, if I add 22 words to 44, that's 66. 66 would be in 3 minutes, so that's not an option. 84 words in 4 minutes. If I double 44 in 2 minutes, that would be 88 in 4 minutes. So it would have to be 88, and that's not going to work. If I double, let's see, if I add another 22 to that, 22 plus 88 would be 110 in 5 minutes. So that doesn't work. And if I add another 22, that's 132 in 6 minutes. Now, I can also set up a proportion. I'm going to show you, preview the next lesson for you. If I have 44 in 2 minutes, I need to figure out how many in 6 minutes. I can just multiply by 3 on each side, and I know that x has to be 132. Little preview of proportions. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next video. So unit rates, again, express the amount per every 1 unit. $10 for 1 magazine, 40 miles for 1 hour. Every unit rate must have a denominator of 1. So if we were trying to do this one, 120 minutes for 20 miles, and we want to know how many minutes for 1 mile, we would divide by 20. So how many times does 20 go into itself? 1. That's the whole point of the unit rate. If I take 120 divided by 20, I get 6. So 6 minutes for every 1 mile. All right, the next one is 129 miles in 3 hours. I can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3, When I divide 3 by 3, I get 1 hour. And 129 divided by 3 is?
43.
That's right, guys. 43. I had some help on that one. All right, the next one. All right, the next one is $20 for 8 pounds. So I can divide by 8 and I get 1. Woohoo! And then I can divide 20 by 8 and I'm going to get
$2.50.
$2.50. That's right, guys. Great job. All right, so I want you to take a second and I want you to try to match the correct term with the definition. Okay, take a few minutes, pause the video, try this on your own. Now, I'm going to keep going. So if you didn't pause, you're going to see the answers and you didn't have enough time to actually read everything. So pause the video. All right, here we go. A ratio. That one compares two numbers. These are different from rates, which compare two quantities with different units. Remember, same units. Okay, a rate has the same units. A ratio, has the same units. A rate has different. Unit rates, one quantity, one unit. All right, and that, my friends, is ratio, rates, and unit rates. See you next time.